So, starting with the Model O, the middle mouse button feels really nice. The notches you can feel with your finger are very distinct. However, clicking the middle mouse button can sometimes cause an unintentional scroll. Thus, maybe the notches are a bit too distinct/protruding. It's a little easier to scroll this wheel with my middle finger while in palm grip, though for bunny hopping you'll still need to use your index finger because it's not far forward enough. The two main buttons are a bit too stiff for my liking. The more I use the mouse, the more I dislike the two main buttons, so much so that I'm getting rid of the mouse. The mouse feet have significantly less friction versus my Final Mouse 2015, but my Final Mouse is a few years of wear and heavier. The weight is nice and could even go lighter. Shape and weight of the mouse is well balanced for fingertip grip. For me it's a bit too short height-wise. Length and width are fine. I saw this said for the O- version, but it seems to apply to the O as well. Everyone was saying how big this mouse is, but I had to double check that I didn't get sent the O- on accident. I think it's mostly the low height that's the problem for me in palm grip. I really noticed it in CS Deathmatch. Side buttons feel nice to click and are well placed, except the short height of the mouse doesn't leave enough room for my thumb there in palm grip. The right click pinches my ring finger when in palm grip. The cable is great. I pretty much don't notice it's there. I don't notice the holes in the mouse either when I'm in palm grip. I measured the CPI steps and they're precise. The software is great and does exactly what I want/need. Sensor performance in game, CS 1.6, is good, though I think the Hati's sensor feels a little better. More raw/less smooth/slippery. Remember that even though they have the same 3360 sensor, the implementation matters. Differences in firmware can have major impacts on performance. Now for the G-Wolf's HT-M Hati 3360. The shape and all buttons are way better than the Model O. The shape and clickiness of the side buttons is great, and so is the gap between them, which lets you easily distinguish between the forward and back buttons. The differences between the Model O and shape may seem slight when you're just looking at the mice, but they're very apparent when actually using them. One problem I'm having is it feeling like it's tilting when I click a button. The larger mouse feet that come in the box can only be placed in the middle, so that doesn't seem helpful enough. Although adding the larger mouse feet seemed to add friction, which I liked. Removing one of the front mouse feet removed a lot of friction, and re-adding it added back a significant amount. I definitely prefer the increased amount of friction with all feet. To fix the tilting problem, I cut one of the small feet in half and put it on the edges, which may have helped, but it also reduced friction significantly. I took the large front one off to cut it in half and place it on the sides, but it seems too thin/flimsy/flexible to be able to stop tilting by itself. So I just added 2 more feet in a different position, and this seems to be the optimal configuration. When I was having problems with the tilting, I could feel the mouse vibrate and tilt when I scrolled the wheel. I tested it with the 4 Final Mouse 2015 feet on the front of the Hati. That seemed okay for a bit, but then I definitely was getting significant tilt when right-clicking at the front of the mouse. I'm wondering if it's because the top extends out further than the bottom. But I moved the feet forward so that they extend out past the bottom, and that did not fix it. I removed all mouse feet and it still has the tilt problem. I cut up a shopping cart to make large mouse feet and taped them on, and that did not fix it. But it did make the problem more obvious. I put back on the small type feet in an L-shaped position on the front again, and moved the back feet as well, and that seems to be the optimal configuration. As long as I don't push super hard, I don't notice a tilt. I'm also wondering if the grooves in the two main buttons help keep your finger in the middle instead of at the sides, and thus help stability as well. The box comes with extra grips, which is great, but already it grips much better than the Model O when I have dry hands. When my hands are slightly sweaty, it really sticks to them, and that's for both the default coating and add-on grips. So the default coating is fantastic. I added the side grips to try and make the mouse wider because I have large hands, but I don't think it helped much, and the grips don't seem grippier than the normal surface of the mouse, and they make the mouse feel bulkier/heavier. So I tried removing them, but the glue started to come apart, so it seems they're not removable once you put them on, which is pretty disappointing. This mouse has the same problem, where it pinches my ring finger when I click the right mouse button in palm grip, but I was able to use the optional side grips it came with to remedy the problem. The scroll wheel is harder to scroll with my middle finger when in palm grip because it's too far back. It's also fairly hard to press. I noticed that sometimes it doesn't register a scroll. Not a huge deal, but it may get slightly annoying after a while, or you may just get used to it, or you may not have the problem and it's just my mouse. The Hati lacks any LEDs. I don't mind main LEDs being absent, but having a DPI LED indicator is really nice. If you install the software, it will give you an OSD notification if you want, but you have to have the software running, and with most or all of the 3D games I tried it with, it didn't show up. It only shows when you're on the desktop environment. The software only lets you set DPI increments of 100, there's no 50. The cowline option doesn't seem to have a major impact. I did a web search and people were saying it was mouse correction, but in my drawing test I didn't notice any difference. The two of these are my first mice with holes in them. I've seen some people say that they don't like the holes, but I don't really notice them at all feel-wise when I'm in palm grip. The cables on both of these mice are fantastic. The cable on the Final Mouse 2015 in comparison is super firm/stiff and thus can hinder mouse movement, whereas these light and flexible ones are much closer to having a wireless mouse. This shape is pretty much the most ideal shape you can have on a mouse, I think, and it's the shape and dimensions I've been trying to encourage mouse manufacturers to use for many years. The width, height, and weight balance from front to back are all ideal for all three grips. I was considering doing a test and comparison with the Razer Viper, but I don't think that mouse would be better than this one. I felt it up at Best Buy and the shape and size felt really good, but I don't like the hard to press side buttons, and I've seen people say the main buttons feel even worse than the Model O's. I'm also not a big fan of the DPI button on the bottom. I don't ever recall accidentally pressing a DPI button when it's on top during normal mouse usage, so putting it on the bottom seems like an unnecessary extra hassle. I really like this mouse. I would love this mouse if the scroll wheel was scrollable with my middle finger and palm grip, and if the side grips were removable, and if it had a DPI LED, and if the scroll wheel was a little easier to press, and if I didn't have to move the mouse feet to get it to not tilt. But those are fairly minor things, and this is by far the best mouse I've ever used. The lightweight, shape, balance, grip/coating, cable, and sensor performance are all spectacular, and I don't have any major problems with the build quality. It seems fairly well built. So now for the mouse tester graphs. Mouse Tester is a program that lets you measure and visualize some aspects of mouse performance. The main one is the X velocity graph. First off, here's the IntelliMouse 3.0, which is the best sensor I've ever used, and one that I stuck with for a decade or more due to newer mice not being able to match its performance. You can see how the curve is very symmetrical. For the first graph here, I think the BIOS and OS power saving options were enabled, and on this second one they're disabled. The settings that typically have the most impact on performance are the C-States options in the BIOS, and then the Windows power plan setting, which should probably be on performance. With my new Ryzen CPU, there are some unique options for Ultimate and Ryzen Balanced, and with these mice on this PC running Windows 10, I haven't noticed a major difference between the settings as far as these graphs go. I'm also using the B450 MSI Tomahawk motherboard, And when I turn off the C states in the BIOS, I also don't notice a major difference. This is very different to my previous PC that had an Intel CPU and was running Windows 8.1. And now here's a comparison with the DeathAdder 4G 2013. You can see how the line is not symmetrical and it's not stable. This is what we don't want to see. Here are some model O graphs on Windows 8.1. The C states are on and the power plan is on balance. I'm on a about 6-year-old Intel motherboard. The mouse is on 1000 Hz. And now here's the Model O on Windows 10. On the B450 Tomahawk motherboard, the C states are off. Power plan is balanced. Windows 10. Now the power plan is on Ultimate. And here's the Hati on the B450 Tomahawk motherboard. C states are off, C states on, power plan balance, C states on, power plan ultimate.